I want to hear cannons. Downfield, pull up, ball to the 5, touchdown Tampa Bay. Mike Evans does it again. Fire the cannons, Bucs.
It's first and goal. That's picked off. And who else? Rondé Barber. And the Tampa Bay Buccaneers may ride to the Super Bowl with that one.
Third down, 18. Dropping Gannon, looking Gannon. Those up with the heads in the shot. At the 40. Derek Brooks 30. Brooks to the 25. 20. Derek Brooks all the way. There it is. The dagger's in. We're going to win the Super Bowl. And there the cannons go. Fire them. Keep on firing them. Keep on firing them.
The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are 8-6, 2 games over 500. They notched their 4th straight win. We are going streaking. The Bucs come out on top, a dominant win against the LA Chargers, 40-17. Absolutely shut down the Chargers in that second half. And honestly, a ball game that at one point looked like it was going to end up being much closer than it was. A classic second quarter meltdown for the Bucs, and luckily they were able to outperform themselves down the stretch here, overcome it, play well enough to win the game, and move to 8-6, a very exciting game. And the Buccaneers get, I think, their 4th straight win over the Chargers in the last 4 times these teams have played each other. Welcome back to the Cannon Fire Podcast, live on YouTube today. Wrapping up this week's game. I'm your host, Rhett Matthew, joined alongside me, my good buddy and co-host from BucsNation.com, Evan Wanish. Your thoughts on the game, my friend?
I mean, look, it was a 17-13 ball game at halftime, so I think a lot of the talk is going to be about the offense, and rightfully so, right? We're going to talk about it. I mean, they just put up 40 points against one of the better defenses in the NFL, right? Statistically, the number 1 scoring defense in the NFL, while also having 2 turnovers, in that game. The offense wasn't perfect, right? It's like you said, that second quarter, they had those 2 turnovers on back-to-back drives. But I think we got to talk about this defense, right? And, pitching the shutout basically in the second half and, getting the turnover that they needed after the field goal, I believe. And then to score a touchdown on that following drive, I think it was massive. And I think this defense really deserves a lot of credit. And it's been under a lot of fire lately, and for good reason. I mean, they've deserved the criticism that they have gotten, right? Because for the most part, this has not been a very good unit. But they were down a lot of guys today, and a lot of guys stepped up, and I think they deserve a lot of credit there for, like I said, pitching a shutout in that second half, which again I just feel like it won't be talked about as much because of the offense, and this offense deserves all the credit in the world as well. Just wanted to shout out the defense really quick, but obviously, a really massive statement win by the Bucs, and one of the more impressive wins that they've had this season, and there's been a couple.
Absolutely. A couple of guys able to step up on the defensive side of the ball today. Cornerback Jamel Dean, who needed a big game this week. He's kind of been under pressure lately. He intercepted Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert, his 2nd interception on the season. We talked a lot this week about how well he has protected the football for the Chargers this year.
We have a $9.99 super chat from Deontay London. Appreciate you, Deontay, getting it started early today. Appreciate it. Hey, crew, great team win. 8-6, got a good streak going. Defense played a great game in the second half. Offense ran the ball great, and Mike flirting with 1K yards this season. Obviously, all things we are going to discuss, in this episode. Appreciate the super chat for sure. There's a lot of good things to go around here. Not as many negatives, right? There's a couple things, and there's a couple ways this game could have spiraled a few ways. But luckily, things broke the Bucs' way, and they had big performances from a lot of critical pieces.
Yeah, so really out of the gate here, it was another hot start. Baker Mayfield opens up that opening drive. He goes 4 for 5, 63 yards and a touchdown. Had a miscue with Cade Otton. He overthrew him. But, I mean, this was a hot start like we have seen from Tampa Bay before. And then the Chargers answered with a touchdown. So you kind of had a feeling, to some degree, this was going to be a tit-for-tat contest. But then the second quarter rolls around, and we see a brutal interception from Baker Mayfield. He's looking for Mike Evans over the middle of the field. Corner jumps the route. He's able to make the play. And then the following drive, not even 2 plays later, Rachaad White coughs up a fumble, and the Chargers are able to take over. Now, they do score a touchdown on the Baker Mayfield interception. Credit to the defense for getting the stop, forcing the punt, and really that being the start of the turnaround for Tampa Bay after that Rachaad White fumble. They overcome those second half mistakes, and really here in the second half is the story of the game. 6 straight stops for the defense, 5 straight scoring drives. It may have been one more for the offense. It was complimentary football at its finest. And again, not quite a complete game in the grand scheme of things. We talked about the Bucs still needing to get to that level, but running away with this game the way that they did in the second half, that's the best they've recovered all year.
Literally running away with this game, like running away, no pun intended, basically, because the Buccaneers, obviously Bucky Irving, 15 carries, 117 yards, had the long, 54-yarder. Rachaad White, 15 carries, 64 yards. So really, effective, right? Everybody was pretty effective there, and running the football. And Baker Mayfield had 2 carries for 25 yards, but had a couple of carries that ended up being called back. I think that's, if you had to choose one thing, the offense could work on, obviously the turnovers, because again, they're starting to become a little bit of a trend, especially in the second quarter there. You're not going to be able to survive every single time turning the ball over like that, but also the offensive penalties, right? A couple frustrating ones today at times. But I mean, really, I guess they controlled the tempo of this game, especially in the second half. And again, like you said, that opening drive though of the game, right? The Bucs for basically 2 years, right? The 2022 and 2023 were so bad at opening drives, and they weren't able to score an opening drive touchdown, and now it's like almost an automatic for this team. Jalen McMillan gets the touchdown again. That's 3 touchdowns in the last 2 games for McMillan, so he's starting to heat up. He had a couple other catches in the game as well, so it's good to see him start to get a little bit more involved in the offense there. Actually was the Bucs' second leading receiver, 5 catches, 75 yards, so pretty nice day for the rookie there. And I just think that they control the pace there. And you're right, it's this game you sort of saw, and it's like, oh, this might have to be a shootout, right? Because based on how the Chargers started, right, with the defense, and look, the Chargers go right down the field, score a touchdown. You're thinking, all right, well, this offense is gonna have to, they're gonna have to come up with the plays. They're gonna have to score close to 40 points because this is gonna be a high scoring game. There was a feeling, right? I think of when the interception happens, Chargers score a touchdown, and then the fumble happens, right? That's the feeling of, okay, well, the Chargers go up 2 scores. That might be tough to overcome, right? But the defense was able to buckle down, not allow the Chargers to score anything. And then the offense just sort of goes off. And obviously Mike Evans in the second half, 2 big touchdowns, especially that first one was a great play by Baker Mayfield to extend the play. Good job by Evans to stay in bounds as well. And then that second one was one of the prettier throws that I've seen Baker Mayfield make in a Bucs uniform.
Absolute dart.
It was a good route by Mike, but I thought it was a great ball by Mayfield there. And at that point, it was a 3rd and long too. I think it was a 3rd and 12, something like that on that play. That's a backbreaker, for a team. So there was a lot of plays that I think the Bucs had those back-breaking plays. When they needed to get a first down, they got it. When they needed to get the big run, they did. When they needed to get the turnover, they did. So there was a lot of good things that come out of this one.
Yeah, despite the mistakes, and really most of those piling up in the second quarter there, the fumble, the interception from Baker Mayfield, 8 penalties on the day, which, again, not great when you're talking about 83 penalty yards, one of the higher penalty days for the Buccaneers so far this season. But they did so many other things well down the stretch that it really doesn't even matter when you look at how this game played out. 505 total yards of offense, the second time the Buccaneers have done that this year. 222 rushing yards in this game. It really was not an explosive day, or as explosive as we have seen from the past game at times in this game. But like you said, in the second half, guys really stepping up. Bucky Irving coming into the game and really getting hot there in the fourth quarter. Rachaad White running well as the game went on. We even saw Kyle Trask and Sean Tucker get some reps at the tail end of the fourth quarter in this game. A $9.99 super chat here from Amazement717. Clap it up for the guy. He said, this game I have to give credit to the staff. Liam and Todd outcoached Harbaugh, who is a heck of a coach himself. Great defensive plan despite the injuries. And Liam, awesome play calls and execution this week. Yeah, that's exactly what I was getting to here. On the offensive side of the ball, the Bucs dominated time of possession, 36-46, to the Chargers 23-14. But Liam Cohen in his bag for another week in a row. There were just so many great play calls this week. And, we've talked about some of the shortcomings, the execution down the stretch to overcome these mistakes. You got to give a lot of credit to the coaching staff this week, especially Liam Cohen. He did it again, man.
He's good. I mean, that's simply put. It's been a really, really good first season for Liam Cohen, and you just hope at this point that you get a second year, right? Because like there's gonna be some interest from outside teams at this point, right? I know that it was a topic on conversation mid-season, right? And I was sort of pumping the brakes on a little bit because we still had an entire season to go. There was a lot more body of work to put out there. Well, now I think, especially putting 40 points up against that type of defense, winning 4 straight games, on could very well win another NFC South title, go to the playoffs. That's the type of stuff that gets you noticed, right? So Liam Cohen, may have some interest from some outside teams, for a head coaching job, and we'll see. If the Buccaneers find a way to keep Liam Cohen, whether that's as offensive coordinator or head coach, whatever. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it. But Liam Cohen, has been really, really good. And I would say, obviously, the best offseason addition that this team made. I mean, that is the best. There hasn't been a free agent or a draft pick that's made as much of an impact, I don't think, as Liam Cohen has. What he's been able to do with this Bucs run game has been like extraordinary. You see at the beginning of the game when they do they show like the starting lineups and everything on the offense and stuff, and you see the rankings for each, and I think the Bucs are a top 10 rushing team, right now, and I mean they're going to be even more, after this game, their numbers got even better. So the fact that he's been able to take this run game, I don't think anybody expected this. I mean, I think you were hoping for a better run game, right? So they were terrible in 2022, got a little bit better in 2023, and you were still like, this run game is a far ways away. But it has been a complete 180 for this run game, and it's helped this offense out so much. So that's, I think, one of the more impressive things about Liam Cohen to me, that how he's been able to transform Tampa Bay's running attack.
Yeah, I think it was 8th in rushing heading into this game, number 2 in scoring, top 5 in yardage. They are just doing a lot of things well this year, and it is another evolution in this offense when you've got a run game that can take over the game the way that it was able to do. Rachaad White been running the football much better. He was able to, I think, get better as the game went on today. Bucky Irving
bounced back after the fumble.
Yeah, absolutely. They kept feeding him. Bucky Irving was able to break away, had a big-time rush for himself. And again, like I said earlier, we saw Sean Tucker in this game as well. Bucs came into this game second in the NFL, converting third downs, and they were pretty damn good for another week in a row. 10 for 15 on third down efficiency today, which maybe 1 or 2 of those third downs were at the end of the game in garbage time, so you don't necessarily count those. But when it mattered, a lot of their biggest plays of the day came on third down. So credit the player execution there, and just the right play calls from Liam Cohen, putting another notch under his belt here. Let's talk about some individual performances on offense before we look at the other side of the ball. The quarterback, Baker Mayfield, had a pretty solid day for himself. 22 for 27, 288 through the air, 4 touchdowns, 1 interception, and through the first half, led the team in rushing, but finishes with 2 carries and 25 yards. We talked about that 1 interception that really started the spiral for the Buccaneers in the second quarter, but luckily they were able to overcome things and play as well as they did down the stretch. Your thoughts on Baker Mayfield today, who needed a big game?
I thought he played well, really outside of that one throw. I would even say, we said last week, oh, he was awful in the second quarter. I don't really think he played an awful second quarter. I think he made one mistake. He was a little late on that ball, and it seemed like he threw it a little bit flat-footed too. Wasn't really able to get much, able to step into it, I think, and just made a bad decision. But I thought he played well. I thought his pocket presence was good. He wasn't holding on to the football as long, which was an issue last week that I thought we saw. And again, and he got lucky a couple times, right? There was one, I remember there was the one that Mike Evans sort of had to knock away, the near pick there. So I mean, but hey, luck's a part of the game as well. But yeah, I thought he played well, and like I said, he made the big throws when it mattered. That 3rd and 12, the second touchdown to Mike Evans really cemented the game. I think really put it like, all right, like that's. That they're up 2 scores now. Like that was a big moment in that game, because the Bucs were right on the sort of the verge, the fringe field goal range there. They throw it in completion. So excuse me, a really great pass by Mayfield. So I was impressed with the performance overall. I don't really think there's too much, like I said, outside of that one throw to sort of really look at, but I thought he did pretty well, and it was a game that, like you said, they needed the quarterback to play well for sure, especially with how the game started, because you were thinking, okay, well, if this is going to be a game where you guys score 30 plus, like you're going to need good Baker Mayfield, because if you get bad, it's you're not going to have much of a chance. And luckily, I mean, the defense pitches a shutout, but Baker in the second half, but Baker Mayfield also, sort of goes off there. And like I said, extending the play on the first Mike Evans touchdown was really good awareness also.
Yeah, and good on Baker for not letting it spiral and get out of hand. It didn't affect his game and become a roller coaster like we have seen in other weeks. I think that's a testament for him to just kind of shrug it off and keep going, keep firing, and they played very well down the stretch. He's played well this season. I think someone said 32 touchdowns, 14 interceptions, a season high, or a career high number of season passing touchdowns for Baker Mayfield. That number going to continue to go up with 3 games left.
So, and also Baker Mayfield joins, I Bleav he joins Jameis Winston and Tom Brady as the only other Tampa Bay quarterbacks to throw 30 plus touchdowns in a season. So, I mean, whenever you're in a list with Tom Brady, it's pretty good company, right? So, yeah, Baker Mayfield, continues to really set a lot of new records this year for the Buccaneers.
Today was one of the most fun Mike Evans games I've watched in a long time.
It was a vintage Mike Evans game.
Nine
he could have
catches.
had 3. He could have had 3 touchdowns too. That one slant, the dude had him by the shirt, and if he doesn't get him by the shirt, he's gone. It would have been vintage Mike Evans game.
9 receptions, 159 yards, 2 touchdowns for my GOAT and yours, Michael Lynn Evans. Led the team in catches, led the team in yards. I mean, this is Mike Evans doing his thing, dude. We're gonna check in with the Mike Watch weather radar. We got to come up with a cleaner name for that. But the Mike Evans receiving yards radar. We'll check that here and take a look at what he needs to get to 1,000 yards. But a performance like today is exactly what we had been hoping for, a big time day, and like you said, a vintage day for Mike Evans, getting open plenty today for Baker Mayfield in this offense.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's early and often too, right? Like before those 2 touchdowns, I think he had 7 catches or whatever. So like they were making it a point to get him involved in the game plan, and I do think that he was just exactly what they needed today, exactly what the offense needed, and like I said, the explosives were there. That first touchdown. That to give the Buccaneers the lead, the lead that they would never end up letting up, basically the 20-17 lead. Then he scores the next one, to sort of make it a 2-score game. So, just like I said, a vintage Evans day, and it's good to see. And for the people keeping track of this, right? Obviously, we have the watch thing, right? This is the type of day you needed, though, right? You needed one of them outlier type of days of, you need to average 95 yards. You needed to have one of the days where you get 160 like he did today. So that was in if he's gonna get it, there was the exact type of day that he needed to have, basically. So really, really good, and hopefully he can continue the success. Maybe obviously not to that point, not saying we expect him to go out there and do that every week, but I think the Buccaneers will look to continue to get him involved, and hopefully he can reach that 1K.
749 yards is the number on the year for Mike Evans. He needs 251, which, I mean, a little over 80 yards through the next 3 games is probably what he needs to get it done. Would love to see it happen for Mike Evans. We talked about the importance of that record during the week, and Mike Evans and the rest of this Buccaneers team, they care more about the wins than they do about Mike Evans getting this record. I think the fans are putting more stock into this than the rest of the organization, but it's a really cool thing to see. It's a historic statistic, and it would certainly do a lot more to put Mike Evans in a class all by himself. One of the best to ever do it. He entered today, I think he is the 40th all-time in the history of the NFL for receptions after his game today. And I think he is 25th among receivers. I'd have to look and see if that was correct, but I Bleav that is exactly what it was. Top 25 all-time in receiver receptions for Mike Evans. So, every week it's a little more history, and we just hope that he can hit that 1,000-yard mark. But
And even like we talk about, like at this point in his career, like the explosive plays aren't as common, I guess you can say. Like those 57-yard plays, aren't typically as common, right?
Yeah.
I mean, look at a lot of his touchdowns from this year. It's just that's not the really style that they have him play anymore. So I mean, it's nice to see when whenever he hit a deep shot or an explosive play with him, because we know he can do it. It's not something that the Bucs need to rely upon anymore.
Well, the type of plays that he was making today, I mean, today was probably the most I've ever seen Mike Evans smile on a TV broadcast in a little while. I mean, he's a team-first guy. He's not a diva wide receiver by any means, but he was cheesing every single time I saw him today, which was...
It's got to feel good. It's got to be a good
very
feeling.
Rare sight. But some other wide receivers stepping up today as well. Jalen McMillan, the rookie, for another week in a row. He has been absent for most of the season, had that big touchdown week 1, and then we were kind of begging the question, hey, where is Jalen McMillan? We were really hyped out of this kid. Well, he shows up today. 5 receptions, 75 yards, and a touchdown. A big touchdown on the opening drive. I think the same route, same play-action pass that he was able to score on last week. He is getting more and more involved for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and that is a great thing considering, 1, they're getting hot. They've won 4 games in a row, and 2, still a couple of things left to do to shore up the division, but the playoff percentages are going up every single week for Tampa Bay. So the postseason, as long as you keep winning, it is becoming a more real possibility. And having Jalen McMillan start to heat up now, this is really the best time of year you could hope that he starts heating up like this.
Yeah, like we talked about, we talked about this for a little while. Like they've needed somebody else to step up, right? They couldn't just be all Mike Evans. If they were gonna make a playoff push, if they were gonna even, let's say make the playoffs, if they do some damage in the playoffs, they were gonna have to have one of these other receivers step up, whether that be Jalen McMillan or Trey Palmer or Sterling Shepard. And not to say that Shepard or Palmer have been bad, but I think you're kind of hoping, the guy out of those 3, you would hope the guy that would step up the most is McMillan, right? The guy you invested a day 2 draft pick in, top 100 draft pick in. So I think you were hoping that that's the guy that would sort of step up, and so far he has. Like I said, 3 touchdowns in the last 2 games. He's starting to catch fire a little bit now. 2 straight games with an opening drive touchdown for him, and I Bleav there was something. And I forget exactly where the stat was, but okay, it's from Greg Allman here. He said Bucs going into today's game with a 72% chance of making the playoffs per the New York Times playoff simulator. So that was before the game, 72%. With a win against the Chargers, it raised that number to 88%. A Falcons loss to the Raiders on Monday raised the Bucs odds to 86%. I think that's if the Bucs would have if they would have lost. So like I said, that right now they have probably an 88% chance. Now obviously that's like it's a projection, it's a simulator. Anything can happen, right? You still got 3 games left. You can lose the 3 games. Like it's not a guarantee thing, but it just goes to show you the percentages, right? The difference in percentages. Had the Bucs lost, I Bleav the percentage would have been 60%. So that's a 28% difference there between a win and a loss, and it was a massive showing. And not just to get the win, but the way they got the win, right? To look good doing it, not sort of squeak out a win, like I said, against Carolina, against Las Vegas. We talked about it on the game preview that look, they're going to have to play better in this game than they did the past 2 weeks, or else they wouldn't have won. because like that last, the last 2 weeks was good enough to beat Carolina and good enough to beat Las Vegas, but it wasn't going to be good enough to beat the Chargers. And they did just that. They stepped up, they stepped up and they played much better. Really, I mean, this is the best game they've had, since the bye week. I mean, really, since New Orleans, probably, to be completely honest. Even in a couple of wins, I don't know if they've looked as dominant, especially with the quality of opponent. I think you have to measure that as well. So a huge win all around for the Bucs playoff chances, for the Bucs morale, and just for, I think, the confidence that you're going to have in this team moving forward.
Yeah, and you talked about the quality of opponent. That was something that we had mentioned on the game preview, but this is a win that you can feel good about. I mean, not only are the Bucs streaking, but we said on the game preview this was going to be a litmus test. Where are the Bucs at? Well, they're scoring 40 points on the NFL's #1 scoring defense. So as long as you've got an offense that can find a rhythm, the offensive line did a good job of protecting Baker Mayfield today. There was only 1 sack allowed. A couple of penalties that got to be cleaned up. Ben Bredesen, Graham Barton holding call every now and again. You're going to get that. Couple of backbreakers here and there, but they did a good job protecting the quarterback and the running backs. We got to give them some credit as well.
Yeah.
Bucky Irving, your leading rusher, 15 carries for 117 yards, averaging 7.8 yards a tote. This guy's playing hurt, and he's still putting up these numbers on 15 carries.
I do wonder if he's not banged up if he scores on that run.
Yeah.
Which kind of sucks because the Bucs end up kicking a field goal in there, not scoring a touchdown. But if he's 100%, does he have a little bit extra burst, to be able to score on that run? That would have been pretty neat.
Kind of reminded me of a Doug Martin run where he always gets that big burst of steam, and you swear to God he's gone, and he'll get chased down some way.
Doug Martin used to do it obviously with runs, but it always seemed like with receptions, Vincent Jackson would always get chased down too. Like that one play against New Orleans when the Bucs were on the creamsicle game. And it would have been almost like a 98-yard touchdown, and he gets scored. I think the Bucs ended up kicking a freaking field goal on that drive. But in the chat, so we're laid it out a little bit here. Bucs beat the Cowboys plus Atlanta loses to the Raiders and Giants equals Bucs win the division. You are right. But let's be honest, and I don't even know if Max Crosby's going to be playing for the Raiders tomorrow, so he might not even be in. Are the Falcons really going to lose to both the Raiders and the Giants? Probably not. Like, they're probably going to win at least one, probably both of those games. So there's still going to be some work to do for the Buccaneers to be able to clinch the division. We'll get into those clinching division scenarios, when the time comes. But I still think there's still 3 games left. 2 of them are divisional games. Next week, obviously, a Sunday night football game against the Cowboys team that looked pretty good today against the Panthers team that's been giving a lot of teams, including the Buccaneers, a lot of trouble. Yeah. So I don't think that's going to be any easy task either. So there's still a lot of work to do. But yes, technically, the Falcons were to drop those 2 games and the Bucs would beat the Cowboys on Sunday night. Yes, they would clinch the division. But again, a lot of work to do before that.
Cannon Fire crew Bry chimes in here with a little bit of context in the NFC playoff picture. Says, we're all Packer fans tonight. A Seahawks loss would give the Rams the division by head-to-head tiebreaker, which means it would give the Bucs 3rd seed by a conference win percentage. Can you fact check that? Is that true? Could the Bucs potentially wake up Monday morning with the number 3 seed?
Yeah, I can fact check that right now. And then obviously, I saw in the chat, yes, it is okay to dream. It is okay to dream about the scenarios because obviously that's the ideal scenario, right? Get this thing over with as quickly as possible, right? You want to get it out of the way. You don't want to have to be worrying about it, needing this or that to happen in week 17 or week 18. You have to beat New Orleans and then this has to happen. You don't really want that. So, that's something that you definitely, I definitely think you want to have happen. So yes, the Bucs would actually be the 3 seed if the playoffs started today. The Packers beat the Seahawks tonight. The Seahawks would be out of the playoffs, and the Rams would be the 4 seed. So yes, if you are wanting the Bucs, to get a little bit of a higher seed there, the Packers win here would benefit Tampa Bay for sure. The Bucs would actually then set up to play the Packers as the 6th seed. So because the NFC North, you got them 3 teams up there that just keep really winning. So I know Detroit lost today, but I mean, they're fine. So yes, a Packers win does benefit Tampa Bay a little bit here. Again, still 3 games left. A lot can happen. Nothing's going to be locked up at any point, but a Packers win would help.
How the turntables, my friend. I mean,
Yeah. I mean, it's. I mean, right now, if you're Atlanta, seeing what the Bucs did today, the pressure's on you, right? I mean, the pressure's on. I'm sure the Falcons were probably hoping that, they were probably hoping that, all right, well, if the Bucs lose to the Chargers and you beat the Raiders, all right, you're right back in it, right? Because then the Falcons would have the division lead right back. But unfortunately, that for the Falcons at least, that's not the case. And now that the pressure is going to be on Atlanta, and hopefully, maybe you crack under pressure a little bit, and you give the Bucs a little bit of an aid there because, again, that's the tough thing, right? With the Bucs getting swept by Atlanta, you need to have a better record than the Falcons. So no, any tiebreaker is going to be won by the Falcons. So it's the race to get the better record.
no punts for the Buccaneers on offense today. Jake Browning was activated for another week in a row, but didn't punt.
You know what though, but I'm gonna give him his props because I think he did pretty well on the kickoffs.
Yeah, he did.
I'm a fan of putting the ball in the spot of like right at the edge of the end zone and forcing the guy to like, oh, this is close. Can I take a knee? Take it out. It worked more than once on today. I was gonna say on Sunday. It worked more than once today. So I was obviously didn't punt it off. That's a good thing. It was either a turnover, scoring drive, or the end of the game, right? Or I think it was the end of the game. So it was good. And um it's look, you'd like a look at them, right? Because they still have questions at punter, but like I think the best case scenario would be to just not punt. I think that's a fine scenario.
You don't even have to talk about special teams if you don't punt in the first place. But let's take a look at the other side of the football.
I mean,
here.
well, Chase McLaughlin didn't miss again. So.
No, he didn't. Money Mac puts it up to 40 points for Tampa Bay. He showed up, did his thing.
I was hoping he didn't miss it. I was
Did
like,
exactly
all right,
what?
I was like, make it, get it to 40. I was like, don't be this is the one that you missed.
But I Bleav he's 22 for 24 on the year right now.
Something like that.
Something like either 21 for 23 or 22-24. Really good year for Money Mac, proving to be worth that contract. On the defensive side of the ball, coming into this game, we talked a lot about Justin Herbert on the game preview. Knew that he was going to take care of the football. They were able to force a takeaway there. They get an interception. Big time day for Jamel Dean. But really, this is a Chargers offense that has made their money this season running the football on teams, controlling the clock, keeping defenses on the field, and the Buccaneers held them to 32 rushing yards. 0 for 6 on third down today for the Chargers. 0 for 2 on fourth down today for the Chargers. They only ran 48 total plays and had the ball for 23 minutes and 14 seconds. I mean, they're literally, other than a couple of big plays, a couple of broken coverages where a good quarterback like Justin Herbert is going to find that soft spot, there wasn't much cooking for LA today.
No, and the weird thing was it was clear from the jump that their game plan involved a lot of passing.
Yeah.
Their game plan was because I mean they came out, I think their first 5 or 6 plays might have been all passes. Like, and I mean that's smart. Like that's, if I was an offensive coordinator, that's how I would look to try and attack Tampa Bay's defense as well. Like especially with all the injuries in the secondary and stuff, like that is the weaker part of it. But yeah, they sort of got away from what sort of got them to 8-5 in the first place. And that was, running the football and playing good defense, and neither of those things happened on Sunday. So, it was a weird game plan by the Chargers, but credit to the Bucs. I mean, and if you guys watch my players to watch video that was out, I said Jamel Dean was a player to watch. I thought Jamel Dean, with the injuries in the secondary, I thought he's a guy who needed to step up. Gets the interception there, and I thought also the Bucs obviously didn't have like a ton of sacks, but I thought the pressure that they had was meaningful pressure. Obviously, yeah, 3 sacks today. Lavonte David has 1.
Lavonte David, I think, had 2.
Had 2. Okay.
Led the team in tackles and had 2 sacks, the ageless wonder. And then Jamel Dean, that interception was a floater because of the heavy pressure from the blitz.
Yeah. So, and that's what, I mean, impactful pressure, right? That's what it was pretty much. So, I thought it was good. And the other reason I think they needed a big game, and happily they got it from Jamel Dean, was because I didn't think Zion McCollum played very good today. I thought today was one of his worst games of the year. Wasn't awful, but like just wasn't great. So yeah, it was good for Jamel Dean to step up, and a lot of the guys. I mean, you got Ryan Neal in there who hasn't played football at all this year. It wasn't like he was somebody who was on a team, hasn't played football. He ended up early in the game, made an impact tackle there. So yeah,
Well,
there was a lot of plays, a lot of different guys stepping up.
just because it's Ryan Neal, I'm going to bust his chops. He did forget to make an impact play on that Quentin Johnson touchdown. There were 3 guys standing there.
Yeah, Tyke Smith is the one to blame for me, though. He's got to make that happen.
There were 3 Buccaneers defenders there. I think Johnson caught the ball 10, 15 yards out from the goal line. His back was turned. He had to turn all the way around and run to the end zone. The Bucs missed a couple of tackles. He was able to do just that. It ultimately doesn't matter, but the tackling has kind of been an issue. These are the guys that you're going to be leaning on, right? This is what you expect when you're missing all 3 of your top safeties, and Antoine Winfield, Jordan Whitehead, and now Mike Edwards. So guys are stepping up, and sometimes you get plays like that. But yeah, I thought there were a lot of guys on defense that were all over the field today.
Yeah, no, for sure. And like I said, it was a next man up mentality, kind of, and I thought there was a lot of, again, when you pitch a shutout, like it's not going to be talked about enough. And like I said, this offense was great, but like this defense set up the offense, right? The Chargers got the ball to start the second half, like, and the Bucs forced a 3 and out. And then, after the Bucs were scoring, there was a couple of times where, the defense could have let up, right? And if you let up a score and you let the Chargers back into the game, who knows what happens there? And, instead the defense was able to shut the door, basically. So, yeah, there was a lot of times I think this defense, really made some big plays there. And I think, it was really good to see them sort of bounce back. I know then the Chargers offense has had their struggles in the past, and I understand Herbert, being a little bit hobbled and stuff like that. Like I get it. But that doesn't take away from what this defense is able to accomplish, which was pretty impressive. Almost as impressive as the offense, honestly. To pitch a shutout in the second half there after a little bit of a rocky start to regroup and find yourselves as a unit there with the injuries they had, I thought was pretty impressive.
Absolutely. And we did not see new linebacker Deion Jones make his Buccaneer debut this week, but we did see J.J. Russell. Now, he only had a couple of tackles on the day, which is kind of crazy. The discrepancy between Lavonte David leading the team and everybody else is pretty substantial. But at that linebacker position, I noticed J.J. Russell getting involved in a couple of plays today. Down the stretch, do you think it is going to be J.J. Russell that the Bucs and Todd Bowles continues to lean on here at that other inside linebacker spot, or do we eventually see Deion Jones at some point? Because I thought for the most part, we'll have to go back and watch the game again in parts, but I thought J.J. Russell did a decent job today. He caught my attention for sure.
Yeah, so we'll see about KJ Britt's status. We'll see if he's any closer to returning. I think they want to give maybe Deion Jones a little bit of a. So Ryan Neal, yeah, he didn't play football, but he was in the defense last year, right? Like Deion Jones has never been in this defense, so there's a little bit more of a learning curve there. It wouldn't shock me if you see him at some point. I don't think, especially he's on the practice squad. You can have a couple elevations for him. So yeah, it wouldn't shock me if you see him in there. I thought JJ Russell did a fine job today, though, for sure. I thought he played probably the best game that he's played so far this year. Yeah, I think he's worth a look next week if KJ Britt can't go. But I mean, yeah, I wouldn't shock me if you saw Deion Jones even as early as next week.
Logan Hall able to notch a sack and a half today. I think he split one with Kalijah Cansey at some point, but he had a decent day. I thought Vita Vea, really this interior defensive line, had a really good day. You talked about that substantial pressure, and I know it's not going to show up in the box score for a guy like Vita Vea, but he did a good job opening lanes for Lavonte David, who got after the quarterback. So not 2 sacks for Lavonte David, but 1.5 sacks. So maybe he split that other one with Logan Hall. Let me see. Yeah, Cansey, I don't think had any at all today. Or did he? I thought he did. I could have sworn. I'm sitting here.
Well, Cansey did have a pass breakup. So
sure
on the
did.
fourth down play,
they dropped Kalijah Cansey.
Yeah.
They dropped Kalijah Cansey back in coverage, and that's another one of those defensive fronts that Todd Bowles is showing these quarterbacks. It was 7 guys at the line of scrimmage. Kalijah Cansey is the one that ends up dropping back in coverage.
Yeah, so Lavonte David and Logan Hall each have 1.5 sacks. So 1.5 equals 3.
There you go. All right, let's give out some game balls and wrap this thing up here. You got to say Mike Evans. I was going to start with Baker Mayfield. Feels a little cliche to start with the quarterback. I will say Mike Evans. You know, he's been the number one receiver on this team. We know that with his veteran status, he can step up and take over. He can be a dependable target for the offense, but today he was the target for the offense. Yeah. I know that big 57-yard touchdown helps this number out a little bit, but he still finishes with 102 receiving yards outside of that 57-yard touchdown. So 2 touchdowns today for my GOAT and yours, Mike Evans, and he gets the first of our 3 game balls here. Who do you got?
Yeah, I'm going to give mine to Bucky Irving. 15 carries, 117 yards, 7.8 yards per average. Obviously, just like you said with the Mike Evans one, the long run does help that, of course. The 54-yarder doesn't find the end zone, but, you know, a guy who I think is still battling some injuries right now. He's not 100% healthy, and I think he battled his way through it. So Bucky Irving continues to be very, very impressive for the Buccaneers, and it's good because obviously he's much more healthier this week than he was last week.
Yeah.
And looking back on it, he probably shouldn't even have been active last week, only playing 10 snaps. Probably should have just sat him, you know, for the most part. But now, I mean, you know, he's got 735 rushing yards on the season. There's an outside chance for 1,000. There's an outside chance. I'm not going to say it's likely, but there is an outside chance for a 1,000-yard runner in Bucky Irving in his rookie season. So needs 265 yards over the last 3 games here. It's you know, not impossible. So we'll see. It's just something to keep an eye on. Bucs may have, you know, the Mike Evans watch, sure, but you might also have to keep an eye on Bucky Irving trying to be a rookie and get the 1,000 yards there.
You know, I think he's a Pro Bowler this year. I think he may be a rookie Pro Bowler for Tampa Bay. I know the Pro Bowler is not that relevant, but when you look at the rookies and their performance, specifically Bucky Irving, we've said it before, if it wasn't a quarterback award, I mean, dude, there's no... Maybe even Brock Bowers is going to be, you know, susceptible to more...
He'll be in consideration, but again, like it's going to be a guy like Jaden Daniels.
It is. It's more national hype regarding Brock Bowers, but man, Bucky Irving has been the most exciting rookie to watch. And we'll have to check his total numbers, but I think he's going to be leading rookies in a lot of these statistical categories for another week in a row. The guy deserves his flowers. And if it's not the official NFL Rookie of the Year, hopefully he gets something, man, because he is just continuing to play well here and, you know, really take over these games for the Buccaneers. That big-time run, they needed to play like that. And, you know, he's been doing that for the last couple of weeks here. So I will wrap up the honorable mentions with Levante David on the defensive side of the ball. Or not honorable mention, sorry, game ball. The last game ball going to go to Levante David here. The ageless wonder, cannot say enough. 8 tackles, 4 assists, 1.5 sacks for Levante David, continuing to do the damn thing. And honorable mention for Baker Mayfield. The miscue, the interception, just a bad throw, right? Couple of bad throws in this game that he's going to want back. That one dropped interception. Shout out to Mike Evans. He gets a game ball. We just had a 2-way player win the Heisman in Travis Hunter. Mike Evans has some quarterback chops in him. So you know,
hey, I mean, hey, he had a pick in the Pro Bowl. So.
He did. Had a pick in the Pro Bowl. Had a pass deflection today. So Mike Evans certainly carving out a Hall of Fame career for himself. But yeah, Baker Mayfield going to get the honorable mention on the game.
Does he go in as a wide receiver or a corner?
Who, Mike?
Yeah.
A wide receiver. Come on. He's got all the records as a wide receiver. He's not breaking any corner records, but
the joke just went completely over the head.
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry.
It's a good corner though. I mean, 6'5" corner. Yeah, you like your lengthy guys. I mean,
yeah, the Bucs like their tall corners. For a long time they did.
I mean, they still do. Jamel Dean's still like 6'1", I think.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. I've always liked tall corners too, though.
Yeah,
it's always. But like the Seattle, the Legion of Boom, like that was built on like tall corner. Like Richard Sherman, who's Brandon Browner was the other guy. He was super tall.
He was underrated. He was violent.
Yeah,
dude.
He was good. He was a good player. Cam Chancellor, another big dude. Like, yeah, I always like taller dudes in the secondary.
Cam Chancellor was a fun safety to watch for a lot of years. You know, some of my prime high school memories are like the Legion of Boom highlight reels. You know, one of my favorites. We're talking about, you know, maybe some of the old school YouTube highlight reels that used to get me going, man. Denzel Perryman, his
Yeah, he's
senior
good.
year at Miami,
Yeah,
had one of the most.
he's still good. He's still a good player. He's on the Chargers. He was
Yeah.
actually out today. A pretty big loss for them.
I was a huge fan of his senior year at Miami. I think he won the Buckus Award. He was a monster, dude. He was a monster, and he had a badass highlight reel. But that's the show. Evan, any final thoughts here as we wrap things up?
No, I mean, 4 straight wins really, like I said, putting the pressure on the Falcons to sort of keep pace, and you're one step further, you're one step closer to another NFC South title. So, and this is a big one, right? This was a game that, again, I think if you had to lose one, this would be the one where you're like, all right, it's a tough game traveling from East Coast to West Coast, and Chargers are a good football team, and the Buccaneers went in there and they took care of business. So, pretty impressive win.
Absolutely. For the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they moved to 8-6 on the year, 2 games over 500, which is a damn good feeling. We kind of made the joke earlier about how the turntables, if you will. And considering where the Bucs were just a few short weeks ago, this win streak could not have come at a better time. A lot of people saw it coming, but I think this win over the Chargers is certainly something that's going to get a lot of people excited here over the next few weeks. 3 games left in the regular season for Tampa Bay. The push to the playoffs continue, looking for that NFC South title for the 4th year in a row, and I think they're going to do it, by God. But that's the show. Thank you once again, ladies and gentlemen, for hanging out with us live on YouTube today. Had close to 300 people in here celebrating a Buccaneers win. We really do appreciate you guys. Buck Wild and Willie Beeman, the moderators, holding it down. Richard T. from the West Coast. Bat W. Ed Gein, K-pop lover. KW Rays man. Trying to get to a couple of more here. Bry, Cannon Fire Crew, the great Leadus Productions. We appreciate you, my friend. And Mazement717, thank you guys for the super chat. And our good friend Deontay at the start of the show for the super chat as well. Can't forget you guys. Subscribe to the channel for more great Tampa Bay Buccaneers news and content. Got some more stuff coming for you throughout the rest of the week to keep you updated on everything Red and Pewter. Follow the show on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. All of those are Cannon Fire Podcast. Best place to go for updates on the show. And, of course, Tampa Bay Buccaneer news as it happens. Speaking of Bucs news as it happens, you can follow my co-host Evan on Instagram. You can find him there at Bucs_Daily. You can find him on Twitter at EvanNFL. Check out his written work at BucsNation.com. I think I said that all correctly. I don't know. This is the time of day where my brain starts to turn to mush, my friend.
Yeah, well, the good thing is this time next week the Bucs will actually be starting the football game. So, reminder, folks, the Bucs are on Sunday Night Football next week. Prime time for the last time. I mean, the playoff game. If they have a playoff game, that might be at night, but you never know. But yes, they are on Sunday Night Football. Even though I don't mind those ones. The only thing that sucks is obviously, we have to, it's a late night, right? But as far as like my day goes, the 4:25 ones are the worst.
Yeah.
Because it's right in the middle. So I can't when it's a night game, all right, I have my entire day, right? When it's a 1 p.m. game, all right, I'm done, then I have the rest of my day. The 4 o'clock one is right in the middle. Like I don't really have it's So yeah, the Bucs are on Sunday Night Football. But yes, you got all the social handles right. Check out my written work at BucsNation.com. You can check out. I will have post game reactions, which obviously again will be a lot of positive stuff. For the 4th straight week, essentially, will be a lot of positive stuff. So, I'll have that, and then also like you mentioned, the YouTube stuff. If you're listening on audio, we appreciate you listening on audio, but if you want a little bit more extra Bucs content here, check out the Cannon Fire Podcast YouTube channel. Gonna have best and worst from this game up earlier this week, and then also later in the week we will have betting the Bucs as well as player to watch for the following game. So betting the Bucs went 3-1 this week. A nice little bounce back there. Shout out Justin Herbert for getting that completion on 4th down to make it so we get through that 3-1. So shout out to him. Over 20.5 completions. He finishes with 21. Vegas is always makes it close. But so like I said, if you guys want a little bit more video content, head over to the Campfire Podcast YouTube channel and check that out.
Follow myself on social media, Instagram and Twitter at Redicus, RHETTAKUS. If you follow me, I will follow you back. But that's the show. Thank you once again, everybody, for hanging out with us. We will talk to you soon with more news and updates on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Getting ready for Victory Monday. 4 straight weeks of winning. Looking to make it 5 next week on Sunday Night Football. I'm your host, Rhett Matthews, signing off from my co-host, Evan Wanish. We will talk to you in the next one. Until then, and as always, thank you for watching, and go Bucs.